interested in and lots of you want to hear more about. So I'm just going to introduce Carrie quickly for those of you who might not have seen her before or heard from her before. But Carrie is she's the Safeguarding Support Officer for the Yorkshire Synod for anybody here who is from the Yorkshire Synod. But she's also the training coordinator for safeguarding for the whole of the URC. So Carrie is well experienced in delivering safeguarding training on a whole host of topics. So thank you very much, Carrie, for being willing to come and share your knowledge and thoughts and experience on and around screen safety for children and young people. So off over to you, Carrie. I'm going to mute myself.
Thank you. Good evening. Oh, am I muted? No, I'm on. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here this evening. So we've just got an hour to chat a little bit about screen safety. So I'm going to hand over to you guys to start with to ask you what kind of things you know about screens and the digital age that we are living in, because obviously we know that young people, children are using screens more and more. So, first of all, hopefully you can access the chat. So, if you just want to post any ideas, any thoughts to any of these questions. So, how old do you think children are when they start using screens? What age? Any guesses? Just so any guesses into the chat about what age you think children start using screens. We've got 18 months. 3, 2. As soon as they can get their hands on one. 4, about 3, 12 months. When they're able to lift a device. So studies show that screen use is potentially starting as early as 6 months old. Now, obviously, that's not a child actively looking at a screen, but I'm sure you've seen in a supermarket, on a bus, out and about, a baby in a pram holding their mum's phone to keep them quiet. I've done it, maybe not as early as 6 months, but I've definitely thrown my phone at my young children when they are being difficult in situations. So that's when screen time potentially starts. And obviously, then the amount of time that they're on screens increases as they get older. How old do you think children are when they actually own their own mobile phone? What age do you think children start owning a mobile phone? 5, 10, 8, 7, 8, 9, 7. So the study suggests that 1 in 5 children, so not all of them, but 1 in 5 children between 3 and 4 have their own mobile phone, which is staggering. Then, as they go up to age 8, 1 in 4 children have their own phone. And then by age 12, almost all children have their own mobile phone by the age of 12, which we can understand, obviously, as they get older. When they're at secondary school, it's necessary more for safety. When they're at school, they might need to contact parents. But obviously, at those younger ages, it's not for making phone calls home, is it? So, what do we think that children are using phones for at the age of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? And if anyone wants to raise their hands and unmute themselves and tell me, or you can put it in the chat. We've got Roblox, chat, games, watching cute cat videos, mostly games, watching videos, gaming, television, distractions, YouTube. Yep. I have a 3-year-old who is very interested in YouTube. He does not have a phone to watch it on, but he loves YouTube. So, yeah, schoolwork. So, as they get older, definitely schoolwork. But at age 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we know that children are using screens to watch television, watch YouTube. So sometimes it's on Netflix or BBC iPlayer, something like CBeebies, but it could be that they're just watching YouTube. Like I said, I have a 3-year-old, and he now can, if he does pick up my phone on the odd occasion he does, I've discovered only in the last couple of weeks that he knows the icon for YouTube. He knows what the app looks like. He can press it, and then he can scroll through to find different videos at 3 years old. So the screen time at that age is predominantly monitored. Parents are in control, but children are now from 3, 4. My 5-year-old daughter knows my passcode, as she informed me the other day. But mummy, I know your passcode. Oh, do you now? Again, she knows what she's doing. She's 5. She can pick up a phone, and she knows what apps to use. So at very, very young ages, children are becoming less and less monitored in their screen time. And obviously, depending on the parents, depends on how much screen time they have access to and whether it's limited at all. Because some parents, obviously, depending on what's going on at home, might not limit it. But what we do know is that the majority of children, significant numbers of children, are accessing screens on a regular basis. It is part and parcel of our culture now. It's whether we like it or not, it is the world we live in. And as somebody alluded to, children do need screens for schoolwork as they get older. I know that one of my friend's children is going into year 1, and they have been advised to buy them devices to use. My children's school don't do that. They do use them in school, but we don't have to purchase them. But some schools are obviously encouraging that. And obviously, there are games and educational apps and things that children can access on a device that are perfectly suitable, helpful in doing things like phonics and reading. And there's apps that teachers will use in the classroom, and they often now all have interactive whiteboards. I actually come from a teaching background myself. I was an early years teacher, and I used my interactive whiteboard every single day with the children. So they are seeing screens every day. Every single day, children are accessing screens. So that sort of sets the scene for this evening. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my screen now. See, it's all screens. Nothing we can do about it. So that's some of the statistics that I just went through with you. And like I said, we know that that trajectory of time that children are on screens just increases as they get older. And that's obviously sometimes a necessity for schoolwork. I was actually teaching during lockdown, so all my teaching went online, even for early years, because I happened to be teaching at a private school. They were worried about losing children and losing school fees. So even our youngest children were accessing their learning online. And my mum, who's also a teacher, was delivering lessons from 9 till 3:30, all online, all screen-based. So we know that screens are a part of our daily life. So we've alluded a little bit to what activities children are taking part in when they're on screens. What about the apps that they're using? So what apps do you think that children are utilising the most? And again, you can put this in the chat. What apps, the popular apps for children? Oh, I've got to get back to my chat. What have we got? Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Roblox. YouTube, then things like Roblox when they're a bit older, WhatsApp, TikTok, YouTube, TikTok coming out is probably the most popular. And the the scary thing about this is that this presentation will probably be out of date within weeks, because we know that the apps that children are using are changing faster than we can keep up with. It used to be Facebook, Instagram. It's not anymore. Facebook apparently is for old people. As I've now been informed, it is Instagram, which is lovely to hear. TikTok is obviously widely popular. Snapchat, and again, my daughter will often take my phone. She calls it filters. She doesn't post on Snapchat, but she wants to play with it because she wants to play with the filters. So they know, they hear about it from their friends. I have no idea. Oh, well, I do know. I know which friend it was who introduced her to Snapchat. But they are, utilizing apps, and they're using those apps for so many different purposes. So TikTok, posting videos, you can now shop on TikTok, messages, and obviously, as soon as you're on any of these apps where there's a messenger service, there is the capacity for somebody to access who you do not want your child to access. And people will send unsolicited messages across all of these different platforms. I will go back to my screen. Does that come up? Can you see my screen? Yeah, okay. I don't know what's happening on my screen. It's got a bit bizarre. So the top 5 apps: YouTube, as we said, WhatsApp, TikTok, Roblox, and something called Pingo, which I had never even heard of. Pingo, I did have it somewhere about what it was. No, I have no idea what it is. I think it's to do with games. So you will get access to this slide pack, and there is a link to where all these statistics have come from. And it gives a bit more information about what apps kids are spending all their time on. It's useful to know, and it's useful to keep abreast of what children are going on to and how to implement parental controls on those. And again, it might be that you've got parents in your churches who are floundering with this. I know that the school that my children go to delivered a workshop about online safety, and lots of schools do. But just because schools are doing it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be doing stuff as churches as well. And I think within that church environment, you've got opportunity to speak to parents in a way that they might not be able to at school. It might be that school did put on a session, but they couldn't attend it. So information around keeping children safe is really, really helpful to be passing on in a church context. And just, you could create a little fact sheets, give parents access to these links so that people know where to go for support. So in terms of how much time children are spending on activities, so you can see here, and I think this is quite glaring, in comparison to all these other activities that children do. So this isn't screen time compared to other activities. This is just time that is spent on TikTok. And the data from this particular research suggested that children were sleeping 33% of the time. School obviously takes up a big chunk of a child's day. They then come home and do their homework. And then TikTok is obviously taking up a big chunk of their time after school and their weekends. So it's worth being mindful of just how much time children potentially are spending on screens. I mean, that amounts to a really significant part of a child's day. And it's thinking about what are they accessing on there, what are they actually doing on there. And we know that other apps are becoming more time consuming, and you will know yourself from the time that you spend on a screen. Apps are designed for clickbait. They are designed to get children to click and click and click and stay on them, and to keep looking at things. the TikTok videos are kept short for a reason. You watch a short video, you refresh it, you watch another video, you refresh it. It's designed to engage brains with very short, engaging things that are going to capture their interest. It holds their attention. Across across social media, there are reports that children are also spending, like I said, quite a significant amount of time on YouTube, Instagram, and a couple of people have mentioned Roblox. So for those of you who don't know, Roblox is a gaming platform for children, and that's dominated the gaming scene for children. So that Roblox is the one that they are accessing most. So there's also Minecraft, and there was a movie that came out about that recently. That's how much it has influenced the sphere of attention. So they've now created movies based on the games that children are playing. So again, children spending a lot of time on Minecraft. So with gaming as well as social media, there is obviously opportunities for children to be interacting with people who are not necessarily who they say they are. Obviously, it's normal for children to want to play on video games. It's normal for them to want to interact with other people. But again, it's this excessive involvement in virtual worlds, which people need to be very aware of because of obviously the risk of dependency on that, becoming can't think of the word now, becoming engrossed in a world that isn't real. It can be very, very damaging to children's brains, and I will touch on that in a moment. So these are the apps that apparently are the top 5 time burners. So the top 5, again, research has suggested that these are the ones that children are spending the most time on. So these are averages, obviously. So we've already touched on TikTok, YouTube, Roblox, like I said, Minecraft, and then Netflix. So actually children are spending less time watching longer TV shows and watching things maybe on a bigger screen than they are on a smaller screen. And it is worth being aware that obviously in terms of children's eye development and their eyesight, this is not my area of expertise, but it is something that I've become aware of. Looking at a big screen is very different to seeing something right in front of your face for long periods of time. And opticians recommend that children should not be looking at a screen for more than 20 minutes at a time because of the way that it focuses their eyes. So again, that's something to be mindful of, not really a safeguarding thing, but just something to think about when it comes to screens. So I've talked a lot about screens and apps and the ways that children are on screens. We know that children are on screens. We know that that's what's happening. So what are some of the actual benefits of this? And I think it'd be helpful to have a little chat about the benefits as well as the challenges. So I'm going to stop my screen for a minute. I'm very confused because it's not. Oh, there we go. Has that stopped sharing now?
Yeah, we can just see you now, Carrie.
Okay, brilliant. Zoom has reloaded on my, I've got a new laptop and Zoom has reloaded in a different way. This is what I mean about how things change constantly. And it's different to how I used it last week. So it's showing my screen shows differently. And yeah, I mean, just touching on that briefly, I don't know if people are aware, but Zoom now has an AI function that transcribes, if you want it to, everything that is in a Zoom meeting. So that's just another example of how much technology is changing. Obviously, the input of AI is creating more dependency on screens, more dependency on devices and technology. It's not something that I've touched on a lot in this in this presentation, but I do think it's worth being mindful of just how quickly technology is changing, and how much is impacting us. So, Megan, are you happy if I put people into breakout rooms for a little bit?
Yeah, or I think Leo might be able to do that.
Yeah. How many breakout rooms do you want, Carrie?
So there's 32 people on. So if we had like 7.
7? Yeah.
Yeah. So what I want you to do in your breakout rooms is to think about some of the actual benefits of screens, because I don't want to just focus on the negative. So have a think about some of the benefits. Also, if you get chance, depending on where the conversation goes, sometimes there's more chat than in others. What are the challenges? So what are the challenges to all of those things that I've touched on? So we know that children are on screens regularly. We know that they are here to stay. We're not going to stop screen time. So what are the benefits and what are the challenges?
How long for, Carrie? Sorry.
Let's go for 6 minutes, just till past.
Okay.
Hello, welcome back, everyone. If I can ask everyone to mute themselves as they come back in, just because of the volume of people. Otherwise, end up with lots of feedback. Thank you. Just because of time, I'm not going to take feedback from everybody right now, because we won't be here till tomorrow. But hopefully you had some good discussions, and I'm going to just lead on from that with some of the things that we were discussing. So we know that there are benefits to screen time, whether you think there are or not. You may have come down on the side of there's more challenges than benefits. You may be thinking about benefits, you may be thinking more about the challenges. We know that as technology changes, there are going to be more and more challenges, and a lot of that for us as adults is keeping up with what's going on for our children and young people, and having knowledge, because a lot of the time they know more than us, and we need to know what's out there. When it comes to safeguarding, if there are ever any changes or any new things going on, we do share information in the safeguarding newsletter. So churches should be kept quite well informed of anything. So, when the online safety bill got passed and things like that. So if there's anything out there that we think is worth you sharing with your churches, we will share that with you. So I'm just going to share a little video now that just gives you a bit more insight into how screens are affecting children's minds. Not to completely scale. Sorry, it's not going to be that big. Hopefully you can see it.
Screens are part of life these days, for us and our kids. But have you ever wondered, are they really preparing our kids for the future, or are we putting their development at risk? Today, we're diving into both sides of the debate to get to the bottom of it. Is screen time really helping, or maybe even hurting? Did you know that our adult brains actually react differently to screen time compared to our kids' brains? For us, screen time has less impact because our brains are fully developed and we have stronger abilities to filter out distractions. But young brains aren't wired that way yet. They're still developing, making them much more sensitive to prolonged screen exposure. Research from the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry shows that prolonged screen use in kids can overstimulate areas linked to attention, language, and emotional regulation. This is why kids may be more prone to screen-related issues like sleep problems, attention challenges, and even increased anxiety. But not all screen time is created equal. Studies, including those from Harvard, show that when screens are used in a balanced way, especially with interactive educational content, they can actually help kids develop useful skills like language, problem solving, and creativity. So the question becomes, how can we make screen time work for our kids instead of against them? And what about us as parents? For many, screens open new ways for kids to learn and explore. For others, they're a daily challenge to set limits. Experts, including the ACAP, recommend creating family screen time rules, such as setting limits and having consistent screen-free times to help kids find a healthy balance. So, what's the best approach? Experts suggest making screen time more interactive, setting screen-free zones, and being mindful of what our kids watch and play. Now, we want to hear from you. How do you feel about screen time? Do you see it as a helpful tool or something to be cautious about? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Whether you're all for screen time, against it, or somewhere in between, let's figure it out together.
So, as we heard in that video, children's brains are not fully developed, and that's one thing that we just need to be really, really mindful of. So, as children grow up between the ages of 2 and 10, the number of synapses in their brain drops dramatically, and what's called synaptic pruning happens. So, during that time, they're really, really susceptible to the information that's going in. As they get older into adolescence, this pruning continues, but it doesn't continue as fast. But they've now discovered that even into early adulthood, that this is still happening, that the brain is making new pathways, it is taking information and channeling that. But what they've looked at is where that happens in different ages of the brain. And when children are younger, it's happening in the areas which are linked to decision making, personality development, and critical thinking. And also, as children grow up, their brains undergo a fundamental shift, which means that they seek social rewards. So they're looking for attention, they're looking for approval from their peers. And when they get that, it stimulates oxytocin, so that happy hormone. So they are really, really sensitive to attention, they're sensitive to admiration from others. And when we tie that in with screen time and social media, obviously we start to understand why children seek it out more and more and more. Coupled with that is the fact that their prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed, so they can't regulate that emotion. So they're seeking all this praise, but actually they can't regulate it. So they're looking for more and more from the internet and seeking out more and more that will make them feel happy. And then that ties into echo chambers and algorithms. So as soon as you start looking for content, the algorithms provide you with more of that content. So you end up seeing a lot of the same things over and over and over again, which means that there are a whole load of different potential dangers. So obviously, if you're looking at harmful content, potentially the algorithm is going to show you more harmful content and show you more extreme harmful content because of the way it's designed to suck people in so that they keep clicking all this clickbait. People are then looking, and children especially, are looking for something to fulfill that need in their brain. So children's brains are really, really susceptible to harmful content and seeing more and more and more of it, which again goes back to that video about why we just need to make sure that there's a healthy balance and that it's regulated, that parents especially, can see what children are doing. Obviously, there's a potential for radicalization. We're not going to go into that in detail, but we do know that can happen online. We do know that it's impacting children's mental health. So when they're seeking out this social approval on TikTok likes or Instagram likes or from their Snapchat story or whatever it is, if they're not getting that, then obviously that's impacting their mental health. And they're just being channeled into this online world and not seeing what's going on around them. We obviously know that there are people out there who will sexually exploit children, and online grooming, the instances of online grooming is going up astronomically because obviously that's where children are spending a significant amount of their time. So the more time they're on there, the more that just becomes a platform for perpetrators to access them. So back in the day, it was don't get in a stranger's car, don't accept a sweet off a stranger. That is not where the danger lies now. It's children being accessed in their own bedrooms. They are sat in their bedroom, in their own home, where you would think they are safe. But they are actually potentially being targeted. So again, we need to make sure that parents are looking at the parental controls and what kind of sites are being accessed. Also, unfortunately, because of the way that children's brains are developing, we do know that there have been instances of children committing suicide or harming themselves because they've accessed harmful content online. Cyberbullying is also a very real thing. So children actually being bullied via messages on apps. So lots of dangers to be aware of and just be mindful of. But what can we do in this sphere? I think the key thing, as with anything, is having the conversation, and it's encouraging parents to have conversations with their children and bring it out into the forefront so that children aren't doing things in secret, so that parents can openly ask them, what apps are you using at the moment? Not in a, I'm trying to check up on you way, but in a genuine, I want to know what you're doing, showing an interest. Giving children the opportunity to talk about whether they do feel safe when they're accessing screens. Do they have different online profiles? How often are they going online? Asking children, what is your favorite thing to do online? What are you spending your time doing? It shouldn't just be this elephant in the room where adults are aware of the potential dangers, but they're not actually asking children the questions. And I think that that's really, really important, that adults have the opportunity and children have the opportunity. And one of the things that has been discussed at a lot of training that I've been on recently is where children feel safe to have these conversations. It's often not at school. They don't want to talk to their teachers. They might not want to talk to their parents, but they might be happy to discuss it in a youth group setting. So it might be that, you have a youth group discussion, a session on online, on the online world, to find out from them, what are they doing online? What do they know about it? Giving children information about how it's, potentially changing their brain chemistry. Again, it shouldn't just be an elephant in the room. We need to inform children, because actually, if they're informed, it might make them think twice, especially as they get older and take a bit more responsibility for their own actions. It might make them think about what they're doing online. So the last slide that I want to share with you is another video that I think, again, is really, really helpful for children to understand the impact that all this screen time, all the things they're doing online could potentially have later on in life.
Meet AJ. He's in middle school. AJ's got a pretty good sense of humor, and so do his friends. They often post ridiculous videos and inside jokes for one another over social media. One day, another student in AJ's class stumbles upon the account AJ uses to post the funny videos. She sends it to another friend in the class. Suddenly, the videos AJ meant for only his close friends to see are being watched and shared by way more people than he ever intended, even some parents. AJ is a little embarrassed. Today, many people judge others by their digital reputations before they even get a chance to meet them. This might include the parents of friends, teachers, acquaintances, and as you get older, prospective employers or even colleges you might hope to attend. Without knowing AJ at all, some of these people will form an opinion about him based solely on what he and his friends thought were funny posts. That's why what we post online matters. our digital reputation is often the first impression we give to the world. Most people already know they have to think about what they post about themselves online. But it is important to remember that what we post can impact the digital reputations of others too, like our family or friends. Likewise, what others post about us can have a long-term impact on our own digital reputations too. The bottom line? Sure, it's fun to have fun online like AJ and his friends do, but before you hit post or send, you might want to take a moment to think about who might see what you post and consider how they might view it. After all, nobody wants a bad impression to be the first impression they make upon others.
So, yeah, just to leave you on that thought again, when we're sharing stuff with children, it's not just the dangers of grooming or the dangers of all the other things that we talked about. Children are spending more and more and more time online, and that is leaving a digital footprint. I was chatting to a mum in the playground a few months ago, actually, and she ended up losing a job offer because they'd done a social media check on her. She's a lot younger than I am, so she'd been on Facebook from being in her teens, and she'd posted something very, very stupid when she was a teenager on Facebook, and they'd done a safeguarding check actually on her social media. It flagged something up and they revoked her job offer. So again, we just need to be passing information to children that what they're doing online now could have an impact on them in later life in terms of their job opportunities, because that's becoming more and more of a thing now, for safeguarding to check what people are posting online. So now we've got some time for anybody to ask questions or share any thoughts or yeah, anything that you guys want to ask about. So the floor is open. If you do want to ask a question, if you can raise your hand virtually, that will be better because I can't see everyone on the screen. And then I know who wants to speak.
Hi, I can't find I didn't raise my real hand. You mentioned about things that we might want to, what might be useful to give out, and I think obviously, and again, coming from the education world until 2 years ago, there is a lot done in schools as well, but it's never a problem or it's never an issue to repeat it and repeat it. Is there anything out there amongst at the URC or anything in the Southern Synod or anywhere actually that has already created something? Or again, is there something that you particularly recommend? I mean, I know there'd be plenty of things from lots of the various companies that are trying to do this work in schools as well. But is there anything that exists before we go and reinvent the wheel, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I know that we were looking at creating something specific, but I also, one of the things that the URC does promote and does suggest people look at is Your Faith, Your Online World, which looks at how faith obviously interacts with online stuff. And I think that that's a really pertinent one for churches to go away and look at, because that's directly about how children in a faith context are interacting with online. But in terms of like posters and things, I'll have a chat with Megan afterwards because I'm not sure. But if there is stuff that Children News have, but I know that there's been conversations bandied around about us creating something about keeping safe online as a poster, and it might be something that we need to take away and do. When I send out these slides, though, there is a slide that I didn't show you today that has got useful links. So it's got resources. Megan's just posted about the Your Faith, Your Online World.
Thank you.
But yeah, I'll add that slide back in, which has got all the links to different things. The NSPCC produced some really good resources that are linked in my slide, so I'll share those with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Harry, what are the Oh, sorry, go on, somebody
I was going
else.
to say, I guess the thing with that is, I mean, we'd be happy to produce something, but like Carrie alluded to in the training, as soon as we produce something and send it out, it's probably current for a week or two or three. And then, before we know it, there's a new app or there's new statistics. So, but I do feel it's definitely something we could look at resourcing churches with initially. So thank you for raising that, Claire. Sorry, Leo, I interrupted you.
Sorry, yeah, Carrie, I don't know that you'll have an answer to this, but what are the ethical implications of us looking at our own children's devices? And then as a youth worker or as a children's worker, the devices of those with whom or to whom we aren't related, but we might consider there to be worrying content.
I think that parents should always be looking at children's devices. I think ethically, when a child is under the age of 18, they're a child, and parents need to know what's they're looking at, because so we have a safeguarding training session on online safety, and there's a video that I share in that is quite a harrowing story about a girl who was basically up in a bedroom all the time on different, and her parents didn't know what she was doing, and it led to it ended in tragedy. So I think ethically it's more important that we know what children are doing. I think when it comes to, unless it's your own child, I think it's being aware if we've got concerns. Right, obviously you're not going to take a child's device off them in a youth group, but if you think that they're accessing something, then we do need to raise that. And you do need to, if you think that children are accessing inappropriate content of any type, and anything that you're concerned about, then in churches you need to speak to your church safeguarding coordinator and then speak to your SSO. CEOP are the like police people that we report to if we've got concerns about online behaviour. So things, it could be that there's a potential for a crime to have been committed or being committed. So if we've got any concerns, because children under age should not be accessing harmful content, they should not be accessing pornographic content, but we know that it happens. There are restrictions in place now, and the Online Safety Act has tried to make it harder for organisations, and there's now age restrictions and things, but it's how is that policed? And in reality, obviously inappropriate content is still getting through. Children are still able to access things underage. So if we've got concerns, then you do need to pass that on. Family link, thank you. I'm glad somebody shared that. And it means that you can remove apps from children's phones and stop them downloading things that you don't want them to download. So yeah, that's a really good one that parents should be using, so they know exactly what's on a child's phone.
Are there any other thoughts or questions or reflections or comments people might like to share?
Just trying to think through what's most useful to sort of pass on to the parents, because I was thinking, to start with, it might be just the links, and then the links themselves would update with everything. But then if you've got a whole list of links, how do you know which one might contain your useful information? And then somebody just said about the family link, which I didn't know about. So I suppose it's sharing basic information like that. So I don't know how you can put all that together, but it's just trying to condense what is the most useful, quick way of communicating to parents where to go for further help if they want it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I don't know how you would do that.
Definitely. I think it's something we need to look at. One of the things that I have been looking at is creating the online safety training as a webinar, so that it could be available online, and then people could just go and access, so we could direct parents to access training for themselves. So I can look at doing that. And then obviously it will be updated, semi-regularly. But yeah, I think that would probably be one of the best things if parents could access some online training.
I think the thing that to say as well is that I think for you guys that are obviously kind of operated in churches, and just like Carrie has shared that she's a parent of two small children, I'm a parent of three small children, and there is a lot of stigma attached around screen time as well. And lots of people have got opinions on what is okay and not okay. So I think another piece of advice I would give you is just to have that conversation with your parents, that you come across in a very non-judgmental way, because then that opens the door for further conversation where they might come back to you and ask you for support. It prepares the ground and the foundation for you to do things like offering them support on what about this family link, or shall we talk about Roblox, or do you know what I mean? I think it is a very contentious subject, I think, for parents and for people who, maybe for grandparents, maybe who, grew up in a bit of a different time, so those screens weren't available. And it's, there is a lot of stigma and I think a lot of judgment around screen time as well. So I think even just being able to engage in that space with parents and with children will really be beneficial to being able to offer support and help in this area. I don't know if people feel the same way as share any similarities to that.
I mean, one of the things that I always say for all my safeguarding training that I deliver, all the other training, is it's about having conversations. Definitely having conversations with parents, asking them if there's things they're concerned about, and it's doing that in a non-judgmental way so that people do feel that church is a safe place to discuss these things, because some parents might not have broader support networks or communities around them, and church might be that place, and they want to be able to discuss things. And giving them opportunity to do that is really, really important, so that people feel that they can share without being judged, and share things so that then they're kept safer. Just keeping the conversation open and having opportunities to discuss those things, I think is really important.
I know in our group somebody commented that it was feeling like we'd got a lot of negatives, not positives, around the sort of phones and things. But just as a parent, I would say for me, it gave a lot of freedom to my daughter, that the feeling that you could have contact both for her and for me. And that's a massive change that kind of came into being as she was growing up. So I think we have to be careful to balance it, don't we? And that's what you said at the beginning. We have to be careful to balance the positives as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Andrea?
Thanks, Carrie. I know it's a bit ironic to ask, but do you share any training or insights on LinkedIn?
No, we don't use LinkedIn, or I don't.
Okay. No, that's fair enough. I can see a good reason for that, but I thought I'd ask anyway. Thanks.
There's no reason for it for me. It's just not something I've ever needed for professionally, so I don't use it. But I mean, I did used to have a LinkedIn, but I don't. In my sphere of work, it doesn't get used very often. So.
Okay, but we're getting all this information fed through to us anyway through the URC. So thanks, thank you.
Okay, if that is all the questions.